Welcome to the playground. My name is Addie Flewellen. I am your host, and my guest today is Bill Champlin. And if you don't recognize that note, if you don't recognize that name and note too, man, let's go back. Let's go back. First of all, I am like crazy honored because I mean, as I told Bill when we first talked about this, I'm like 64 years old, and I've followed this man's career since I was in my teens. And right now I'm feeling like I'm back in my teens. And Bill told me, hey, if I make you feel young again, that's a good thing. I'll never forget that. So I'm good. So Bill.
Well, it's Tamara had a great saying at one point. She says, hey, I may be old, but I'm immature. That counts for something.
And there you go. And this is going to be fun. Again, I'm so looking forward to this. I'm so looking forward to this. Yeah. Before we get started, I promised my daughter, because when we had said we were going to do this, I called my daughter and told her that I was going to have you as a guest on the show. And the reason that's important, I said, you know, I'm going to be sure to mention this one thing to Bill, right? And first of all, she was crazy excited because I believe it was 90. I can't think. 2006 that Chicago 30 came out, right? And on that album was a song called Already Gone.
Yeah.
Right. Which Bill wrote and sang and all that stuff. Great song. But
I wrote that,
my daughter,
George Hawkins Jr. George was the bass. He played bass with Fogerty, Giroux. He was with Kenny Loggins during the period of time, that 12 years where Kenny was smoking like a freight train, 10 or 12 years, something like that.
Wow.
George, one of my favorite bass players. And he passed away a couple of years ago, and I miss him terribly. Just a sweetie pie.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But he and I wrote that, knocked it off, and got it on the record.
Great song. And the reason I bring that up, my daughter was 10 years old at the time, and what stuck out with her, I mean, she's singing the song and this, that, and the other, is the "Thank you very next," right? And since that day, that's all she says. Whenever "thank you" comes up to her, oh, thank you very next. Thank you very next.
Yeah, that's a George line. Thank you very, instead of "thank you very much," now what? You know?
Right.
I'm telling you, that guy was as funny as anybody on the earth. I mean, it's
really
just insane.
And
had a ball hanging with him.
Is that the meaning behind that? Thank you very much. Now what? I mean, is that what that whole thing is
basically
about?
Yeah. It's kind of a little bit like, thank you very next. In other words, thank you, but I'd rather talk to somebody else. I think that's kind of where it sort of came out. It's a little bit of a you know, I mean, Tristan Bowden had one, you know, where he's in a conversation with somebody and somebody answers the telephone right after Trish has asked a question, and he just goes, "Nice talking to you."
Okay, so it's that. Okay.
Or a Hollywood party where you're talking to somebody and they're looking over your shoulder to see if they can see somebody more important, you know?
Right. Oh, okay. And to this, like I said, to this day, that's how she answers. It's always thank you very next. Thank you very next. You know, so I told her that when I talked to her, I was going to be sure to give her a shout out.
George threw it in when we were writing it, and I just went, yeah, what the hell? Let's go for it.
Yeah, and of course you're singing, and you got that attitude in there too. It's great. It's awesome. So I told her that was going to be the first question. I was going to send Ashley a shout out. So Ashley, there's your answer right there. That's how that whole thing came about.
Ashley, you've got a great ear for phraseology.
And she majored in English, by the way. So thank you. That's really great. Well, then,
yes. Yeah. Then you should be writing songs. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons I do well writing songs, that I was really an English whiz. Just when I was younger, like 8th, 9th grade, I could diagram the Declaration of Independence. You know what I mean?
What?
So when you're writing lyrics, you want to say something, but it's not fitting. There's a couple of ways to do it. You know, you change where the verb goes, you change where the adjectives go. There's a lot of stuff you can do, and having a little bit of an eyeball on English really helps.
Right. You know? So you're all the way in then. I mean, you like use the language to. I mean, you just mentioned verbs and that
language, the English language. I mean, look at George Carlin. He used it with him. The English language was a weapon of mass destruction. But he was very, 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 very good with the English language, and some people are. You know, and I always try to do what I can to get a little bit of street stuff in it, so it doesn't sound too academic. So, and that's kind of. You know, I was riding with a guy one time. It was Steve Diamond, and you know, nothing came of the song, but I mentioned to him. I said, "Man, I was singing on a demo for a guy one time, and one of the words of his song was juxtaposition, right?"
Wow.
And I went, that's not a song word, you know. Right. He was singing anyway. And Steve said, "Yeah, you're right. That's not a song word." Well, wait a minute. could be a rap word, like as in baby. It's juxtaposition.
Wow.
And that's when I realized, here's a guy that knows the English language.
Wow.
Steve's a really good songwriter. And,
Okay.
and one of the reasons why is he could, he's got a mind like that, can find different uses and different meanings for different words,
It's interesting because you are a true composer. I mean, I've listened to, like I said, I've listened to you from way back and everything. I mean, dude, is there ever a day that goes by that you don't write something? Because I mean, you have like so much material, and it's not like one genre. I mean, you cover it all. I mean, how do you keep that going? Especially now, like you said, there are going to be like so many albums out that define 2020, And I guess for you,
in 2020, somebody said adding another daylight savings when the clocks changes, adding another hour to 2020 is like getting a bonus track on a Yoko Ono album. That was insane. I don't want to piss off the Yoko fans, but there you go.
Okay. So for you, I mean,
that's 2020. A lot of people can't wait for it to be over.
Got you. And for you, it wasn't like, okay, well, everything's cut off, so I'm going to go in the studio and write. I mean, this is pretty much just a continuation for you. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, where does all this come from?
I live in a house with insanely creative people.
Okay.
I mean, Tamara is one of the best writers I've ever written. She comes up with the greatest. Yeah, she's just, and plus she's got a really great melodic sense. Sometimes she comes up with the great melodies. I mean, I sent you the album, didn't you?
Oh my gosh! And you know what? I got to tell you, you did send it to me, and I started listening to it, and I started writing out notes because I want to be sure to like give you song names and everything. And as I got like past song 6, I'm like, forget this, and I'm just going on and on and on. Great album, really, really good, really good.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, Tamara and Gary Falcone and I wrote a good portion of that record.
Really,
like that first song, "Reason to Believe." It's a track that Bruce Geitz, who's a dear friend of ours, plays guitar. Hadn't played a lot lately. He's had some physical problems, but he dug into his stash of tracks and came up with one that had George Hawkins on bass.
Oh wow!
Vinnie Colaiuto on drums, and the rest of it was George playing keys and guitars. And Tamara and I heard it, and it was like a race to see who could find the pencil and paper first.
Wow!
We were on that thing like white on rice. It was insane. I mean, I had that thing vocally recorded and done in no time at all. And then I put a little fake organ on it. And then when I got around to doing the rest of the record, I went to Carmen Grillo's house where my B3 lives, and re-recorded the real B3. This is a giant difference.
I got you. Okay, because great. I was going to ask you what Bill Champlin does fake organs. That just doesn't sound right. So,
well, I don't have room for it in my house. I'll just knock one off just to see how it feels, because they feel okay. I mean, they sound okay, but man, I'm sorry.
It's not the real thing.
I gotta have this.
I hear you. It's not the real thing.
And so I went and replaced all the fake organs with real organs. I think there's one fake organ on there, and that's something that Matheson played. It sounded so good out there. Yeah.
Okay. In your list of songs here, I have like Another Lie. That was a great song. I mean, again, 14 songs? 14 songs on there? 16?
There are 14 songs, but I think on what I sent you, there was 16, because the last two were for the Japanese release, and they always demand 2 bonus tracks. So when I was mixing and mastering, I'm going to make sure that I get this in advance.
Gotcha.
So it's ready to go when it's done.
I'll tell you my song, a Stevie song.
Another Lie is, there's a pretty serious story there.
Yeah. Okay. I wondered.
My son passed away. My older son.
I'm sorry.
Passed away. I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe 4. And he had esophageal cancer. We kind of weren't talking a lot for a lot of years. And then when he pulled up with cancer, we just actually became really good friends because we were dealing with that. And then he passed the day after I was diagnosed with a different kind, kind of cancer. So it was a rough week. But he always had a tendency, because he was kind of into prescriptives a lot. He always had a tendency to tell lies a lot. And at one point I said to Tamara, I said, "Man, I'd give anything to hear another lie." And she said, "Oh my God, you write that down." So that it took me about 2 years to yank that one out of me. That one took a while. And,
I'm sure
it's a pretty pretty deep song. But somebody said to me, or I think I read it somewhere. It says, if it's not personal, it's not art. So I took that to heart. I mean, there's always the traditional blueses, baby, you left me, I don't dig it. You know, always there's that kind of lyrics, and I'm good at those. I can do those, and I think there's
yes, you are.
You know, I mean, just for funk lyrics, you know, they're all. I mean, I can be kind of funny if I want to, but there's, you know, I've also had a history of writing pretty deep personal things, and this album, I just went, I'm going as long as I can go on this.
Really?
So that's why Reason to Believe was really good. It was a real gratitude song.
Gotcha.
It was really for Bruce and his family, and me and mine.
Oh, okay. In that list, and again, I had to stop after a while because I've been like, okay, I'm writing too many notes. I want to sit back and listen to this because again, I mean, dude, you brought it as like you have never done before. I mean, dude, you brought it on this one. So are there a lot of like stories like that where they're like
I like the album. Yeah, I like the album. You know, My Time is definitely personal. The 14th song, definitely deep. And you know, I just kind of went, well, you know, people could say, well, Chaplin's gone left and he's becoming a maudlin country writer. You know what I mean? Wow. I lost my dog. I lost my pickup, and you know, that's not what it's about. It's real. You know, it's a pretty real thing. Usually, when someone dies, when they write about him, they try to make it like he was an angel when he was alive. But I didn't want to write that song. That didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Okay, two songs that I definitely wanted to ask you about on this one. First of all, a Stevie song.
I needed as one slow back thing. I've been watching TV, and I've been watching people, you know, just burning places down and screaming on the street, just yelling and yelling and yelling. And just you watch anything, and everybody's out there yelling and yelling and yelling. And I'm realizing, what's the music that this generation that's out here is listening to? They're listening to yelling and yelling and yelling. What happened to Marvin Gaye? What happened to Stevie? Those things, those guys, you know, that music is still here. It's so melodic. It's so beautiful, so touching that the next thing I knew, I was writing this.
Okay.
Because I had something to say about it. Basically what it was about, just get inside a Stevie song, and that yelling, that volume will come down. That anger may come down. That you know, feeling, you know, Stevie has in all of his music a certain feeling of faith.
That's true.
And gratitude that's in his music. So I was, you know, and it was, you know, God, he has been played such a big part in just about everybody's life, whether they know it or not.
That's true. Very true.
It was time for somebody to say something about it. And I figured I would.
And you did. You really did. And I hope the people that are watching this I hope people that are watching this are like taking notes as far as like these song titles, because again, the whole CD is good, but I mean, these are the ones that stuck out to me. And again, like I said, I'm listening to all this stuff and I'm like trying to take notes, and it's like, okay, I can't take any more notes. I'm going to listen to this. This CD is that. It really, really is. And I'm not just saying that, I mean that. It really is. I said there was going to be two songs I was going to mention. Too Good for Too Long. The groove on that one, dude. Man. Yeah.
Well, that's Alan Hertz on drums. I played bass. It was written by me and Andreas Carlson. Now, Andreas Carlson, you know who he is?
I've heard the name.
He was a big writer. He wrote Bye Bye Bye. Wrote a lot of stuff with Max Martin. He's had more hits than my dogs had fleas. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about ukuleles. You know, but he's, you know, and I've known him since he was a kid, since he was 18 or 19. Great singer. And he and I I had a little groove, and he and I got down and wrote it. And he says, well, let me bring the lyrics that we got. And we wrote some lyrics together. It was all happening. He went home, took them home, came back, had just customized them and put them together in such a great way. I just went, oh man, wow, this guy's as good as it gets, you know. And Andreas is like one of my dearest friends. I've known him since he was 19, and I've just watched him go from being a busboy at Cafe Opera in Stockholm to being, I mean, he's the CEO, and he runs, I don't know, a bunch of universities. He's way into writing. He wrote, like I say, he wrote co-wrote most of those big Britney Spears things, Backstreet Boys, Celine Dion. He's just written hits up the ass. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, got you.
But we've still maintained pretty close. You know, when he's in town. I mean, he has two. He lives here and he lives in Stockholm.
Okay, okay.
So, and he's just and with that we got into that, and you know, and I started cutting it the minute we had it written.
Got you. Before we get too far, because I neglected, I forgot about that part. As far as what is the name of the CD, or is there a name yet?
Living for Love.
Living for Love. Okay.
There's kind of the third song on there is kind of a bluesy song almost.
Yep.
Almost.
Okay.
Like, I mean, when Alan Hertz, the drummer on it, heard it, he said, "Man, it sounds like a Bonnie Raitt song or something."
Okay.
Which is a little different than most of the record.
Right.
You know, the song before it is a Greg Matheson thing, especially me, which is up and in your face. We had Mark Russo stack some, 5 saxes on it.
Right.
And it's the second song on the record.
Okay.
And Greg and I wrote 3 songs. Greg and I have written some really cool stuff. I think we may have co-written Al Jarreau's last hit, a song called "Just to Be Loved."
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was me and Greg that wrote that, and I stacked all the backgrounds on that. Right. Paul Brown brought it over and says, "Hey, just do what you did on your record, and you're gonna like this. It's down a whole tone. It'll be easier." I went, "Cool, got it."
There you go. I mean, at the beginning of your career, it seems like every year you're like, you're out there, and I don't know if people know this. Like you were saying, it's this stuff is out and people don't know that they're listening to like this, they don't know that this is that person or whatever. And I think that holds true as far as Bill Champlin. It's like, did you know that it's Bill Champlin singing, that sing all these different songs, In the Heat of the Night? That's him singing the lead on that song, like
TV show.
Yeah, the TV.
The original record was Ray Charles.
Right. Oh, right. And that's what I meant, the TV show.
Oh, when it's Ray. No, the thing is, it's funny that I had the manager that we had with Chicago at the time. We were backstage I think it might have been the Stardust. We were backstage, we were playing a gig there.
Here in Vegas?
We were about to get in to start working with Earth, Wind & Fire for a summer tour.
Uh-huh.
And Peter said to me, he says, "Is there a song that you could sing with Earth, Wind & Fire?" And I went, "Peter, how about the biggest hit they ever had?" Yeah, I said, "How about After the Love Is Gone?" I co-wrote the song, And he went, "Wow, you did?" And right at that time, 20 seconds later, there was a TV on in there, and there was in the theme from "In the Heat of the Night" was playing. He goes over and changes the channel because there was a football game on that he wanted to see. And I said, "Peter,
no way."
Took it back, put it back on that, on that theme. I says, "Anything familiar about this to you?" He says, "Yeah, it's Carol O'Connor, Archie Bunker. I got it. Yeah, it's really good." I said, "I mean, does the singer sound like somebody?" Said, "Well, yeah, some R&B singer." I said, "Dude, that's
there
me."
You go.
It's been playing in people's living rooms for, I don't know, 30 years.
Yeah, for years. For years. Yep.
And he didn't even know that. Right around then is when I went, "Yeah, he's not exactly my manager. He doesn't know anything that I do. No idea what I do."
That's
he was going, "Hey, maybe you could do some of that R&B stuff that you do, like maybe do with Earth, Wind & Fire, like maybe do Midnight Hour." And I went, "Okay, hold it right there." It's just, if Earth, Wind & Fire is going to do a cover, it's going to be a Stevie tune, it's going to be a Donny Hathaway song, it's going to be any number of stuff, but they're not going to go back to to Wilson Pickett. The only people that play Wilson Pickett songs are old white guys dressing like young white guys trying to sound like old black guys. That's about what you're going to get out of. I mean, believe me, I love
or cover bands in Las Vegas.
Exactly. Yeah. How many times have you heard what is the one?
Mustang Sally.
Right. It goes, yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Mustangs. And you know what? I don't even know the words to it. And hey, sing it. Yeah, I know Mustang Sally. I don't know.
And you know what's funny about that? Because when me and some of the guys get together and we talk about that song in particular, and especially for the cover bands here in Las Vegas that cover that song, it's like, you know what? I have yet to hear somebody do it like Wilson Pickett did it. Wilson Pickett, it was funky. I mean, the way he did it, and no band does it like that.
Who produced it and who played on it was the Booker T and the MGs and Steve Cropper.
There you go.
And they're all those, listen to the Otis Redding stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, how great is that? Yeah. I mean, I was a Motown fan right up until they wanted to keep redoing "Baby, Baby." Where did our love go? You know, all that.
Right.
And it kind of went to a little bit stupid. I'm sure they were making a whole lot more money than they were before that.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, before that, I mean, God, you know, Marvin Gaye, please. You know, that guy could sing Time, News, and Weather and make it work. They had a thing a little while ago. It was somebody just posted it. It was an ISO vocal of Marvin Gaye singing Grapevine. And it's exquisite how good he sings. I mean, right there says, this is what R&B is about. This is how good it really can get. You know? And then all of a sudden, everything's got to be cute and cute and cute. And then along comes Sam and Dave, Albert King, Otis Redding. I mean, you know, Stax Volt started kicking. I've been aware of Booker T for a long time, but it all just jumped big time. When Steve started producing that stuff, things started getting really good. You know, Proper to me is one of the most creative rhythm guitar players. He's got the absolute perfect combination of brilliance and ignorance all in one passage.
Nice.
Get to Albert King, Born Under a Bad Sign album. Now Albert's playing lead on it, but listen to the rhythm stuff. And Steve just every song.
Excellent.
Just one of those guys. Sweetie Pie too is a lovely man. It's one of my because Tamara sang with Blues Brothers for a while, and Steve was in that, so we kind of were close to him.
Oh, okay. Next question I'm going to ask you. I'm sure.
By the way, I do go on tangents.
And that's fine. That's fine because I mean, I want people to know.
I want to go, hey, look.
I want everybody to know, please. I'm sure you told this story 1,000 times. After the love is gone. How did that come about? I mean, first of all, start the whole process. It's like, okay, the inspiration behind the song was what? And then the next step was, you know, you put it out there and then Earth, Wind & Fire picks it up and makes it theirs.
Yeah. Well, let's start it off with, we needed one more ballad. David didn't think that we were short one.
That's really David Foster. David Foster, by the way, for anybody keeping score. That's David Foster. Anyway.
And now David's really, really close to Jay Graydon, and they happen to be writing some stuff. All of a sudden, David started coming up with his stuff. So him and Jay had pretty much written the progression and the sequence going into what at the time was a guitar solo. You know, the key change, it goes from C minor is the key, the starting key of the chorus, because it goes through about 4 keys in one chorus.
Right.
And then up, do the same thing, but up in F. So I mean that was cool. And David said, "Hey, I got this thing," and he did it. And he kind of sang "After the Love Is Gone" with what he was playing. He said, "That's all I got vocally, but I like it." So I had to write the lyrics backwards from there. I couldn't just start with nothing. I had to go, well, that's at the chorus. What am I going to do on the verse and everything? It had to somehow go to that.
Okay.
And then
gotcha.
But I mean, because that was the linchpin of the thing. And I said, well, hey, play the piano part, put it on a cassette, and I'll write it. He said, no, I got to teach it to you. It took me longer to learn the piano part.
As far as like the different chord progressions.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about that record that's really cool is Letter B. Something happened along the way. Yes. People, when they first heard it, thought that was the chorus. And then it hit the chorus, and it was like, this song's got 2 choruses.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, one's a little simpler than the other, but so, and it was all fine, and we cut a demo on it at Jay's. We got the drummer, Doris Maxwell's a really good drummer, but he wasn't quite right for this song. And we cut it a couple times with him. At the time, David was working as a piano, just playing piano, I think on September, a couple of Earth, Wind & Fire things. And he was just on a break, and he was just playing the thing, and Maurice walked over and went, "What the hell is that?" So David said, "Well, it's a song that we're going to put on Bill's album." And he was aware of my record. He actually wanted to get 3 or 4 more songs if I would agree to not record it myself. I went, "No, the one is fine, but let's not go with the other 3." That was a big one of my what I call Suzanne Summers career moves. Not the smartest move I've ever made, but anyway, neither here nor there. So he heard it, listened to it, told David, says, "We'll put this on I Am." if you guys choose to not release it on your record. And I hadn't really cut a great demo on it yet.
Now, again, these are which songs? Which songs are these? Did you say September?
Which for the single album.
The single. Okay, got you.
Yeah, so we just it was written for that album, and it ended up going on I Am, which was a great move.
Got you.
And the thing is, it was funny, is that David, right after they released that record, David happened to be in New York on a regular basis. He was producing Hall & Oates Along the Red Ledge album. And they had their sessions started at noon or 1, and David went over to the CBS building and knocked on doors and went, "You got to release this as a single." And they said, "Nah, Earth, Wind & Fire is like a dance band, boogie band, And they kind of related to Earth, Wind & Fire as being, a sort of a Black Casey and the Sunshine Band. So, come on, there's some great music here. These guys have done, this album's got some unbelievably great stuff on it. And I think Boogie Wonderland was the first single on it. And, which is fine, but After the Love, they should have written in the Stone. It's one of the finest pieces of music ever written.
Yeah,
for my mind.
I agree.
And it really kind of showed that those guys were able to go anywhere. But and so David I think they released it as a single, just threw it at the wall, just to get David out of their face. One of the first times David ever really did that. And I got to hand it to him. I owe him everything on that one, because he made it happen. Diane Warren does that. She'll follow a record up. It's like babies. Some people have babies and they walk away from them and hope they live. Diane sticks with them all the way through the baby's master's degree. She sticks with them all the way, even to the point of hopping on a plane and going and arm wrestling program directors in the middle of the country, just to get on the song. Everybody else is doing it. That happened with Look Away. She went to a couple of program directors who didn't want to get on it. Where's the horns? Where's the Chicago? Where's the tenor? Where's this? Where's that? And finally they went on it, and that song just went through the roof. It
was a monster. That song totally took off.
It was like, I think it might have been Diane's very first big ballad, rock ballad. And she's an amazingly prolific writer, and the thing about all of her stuff is passionate. It's all really, really passionate. It's not just baloney; it's real. She's a good friend, a good pal. I don't see her all the time, but whenever we get together, we always have a great laugh. And she's
I'm sure
in the butt. Yeah.
And as far as songwriting, it's like total magic.
She and David got together for "Unbreak My Heart," and Foster arranged that for Tony Braxton.
Right.
Amazing. Yeah, really, the chord change into the chorus is one of those goosebump chord changes, just like the chord change into the chorus of After the Love.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard that. And Earth, Wind & Fire, of course, back in the mighty, mighty days and all that stuff, they were like just this awesome killer band. And then this song comes out, and it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Next.
Right.
Here we go. Where are we
Thank
going?
you very next.
Thank you very next. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Maurice was, and in the early days when they had Charles Stepney working for him, it was screaming. There was some pretty cool stuff going on,
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm dealing with bedhead and hay fever. So there you go. I mean, I tell my oncologist, you guys are doing pretty good with cancer. Any chance of tackling that pesky hay fever business? Right. He said, no, but if you hear of anything, let me know.
There you go. So moving on, Turn Your Love Around, another monster hit.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was one of my, I've had a couple of assignment writings, and that was an assignment writing.
Really?
Not David. Jay had come up with this bass line, and he got together with Steve Lukather, the guitar player from Toto. Who's an amazingly great guitar player. But Luke got on the piano. They ended up putting, Jay's a good piano player also, but they ended up putting together the song and called me in to do the lyrics on it. And this time they went ahead and made a cassette, and they pretty much had the melodies and stuff. I just had to fill them in. And it was really weird because I wrote the melodies on the bridge, I think. Girl, you know me, that thing. But they just, you know, we cut a demo at Jay's studio. I sang it. And then when they brought in George to do it, Jay said, hey man, sing it your own way. He said, no, Bill's, you know, whatever Bill did, it's the kind of the melody of the song. Let's just go ahead on. And it ended up really being cool. You know, Jay and Steve just wrote a monster.
Got you.
I don't want to tell you where Jay was when he wrote the bass line, but you figure it out.
Okay, then.
That's another guy that could be doing stand-up comedy and
really
and be up there with the big timers. Yeah.
Got you.
One of my a fun hang, man. Jay's always a fun hang.
Let's go.
He's one of the star players on the earth.
Oh my gosh.
You know, Steely Dan's Peg. Yeah, that's Jay.
Oh, okay.
Manhattan Transfers, Twilight Zone, all the wire choir stuff in the middle of it. That's Jay. Jay does the wire choirs, you know, guitar stacking as good as anybody on the earth.
Another monster. Let's go. There's
my co-producer. He's pissed at me for not singing the notes he wants me to sing.
There you go. Hey, and you're used to that, right?
On this album, I probably spent half of the vocals because I just sit down and sing. You know, one time I said, "Well, why don't you stand up and sing?" I said, "Well, why didn't Ray Charles? Why doesn't Elton John? How about Nat Cole?" That way, I could just sit there. I got a microphone. I got punch in, punch out. I could just take care of myself. But I usually have a papillon in my lap while it's happening.
If I remember correctly, there was a story about Oleta Adams that was like the same thing when she did Get Here, you know, and they had her stand behind the mic, and somehow it just wasn't like the song they got used to. They set her behind the piano, and that did it, you know, and that's the version that we heard.
Somebody told me a story that when the Wexler was producing Aretha's first album, the first album on Atlantic, he had an album on CBS. It was a little different thing, a lot of strings and stuff. They didn't get her. They didn't know what she was about. Jerry knew what she was about, so he brought in all those cats that he brought in. You know, great players, monsters, right? And she was singing, and she was just kind of throwing it. You know, they had her standing up. And at one point, Jerry went, "I'm gonna try this." He said, "Aretha, we've got the Wurlitzer player over there, but we really need a grand piano on it. There's nobody here. Could you play it and sing it at the same time?" And the skies opened up.
Wow.
The minute she put her hands on it,
really?
That whole thing happened. Yeah. I mean, I saw it happen one time. I think it was the second inauguration party for the second term of Bill Clinton. And Aretha's band played. And I said, well, I'm gonna check this. I haven't seen Aretha's band in a while. And she was kind of, "What you want, baby, I got it." Yeah, here we go. You know,
right, exactly.
And believe me, I get it. And so she, at one point, she just kind of looked over, and there was a grand piano a little bit off the stage, but it was mic'd, and there was a microphone right by it. And she said, "I'm gonna try something different." And she said, "Guys, take a break." And she just went over and started playing piano and singing, and it was like,
and right.
There it is. And then Lou Rawls, who was my singing teacher, he didn't know it, but he was. Oh yeah, I was into Lou big time when I was in school. It was like phrasing. Anyway, so Lou comes out to sing, and she starts playing Tobacco Road in the original key, which was C.
Oh my God.
Lou had been doing it in G just because he got lazy. And she brought it out of Lou. You know, as opposed, and in addition to bringing it out of herself. And I was just going, some people just play better when it's what's going on. I just watched the Santa Fe interview with Jerry, and he said, you know, when they recorded, they brought everybody in to play, even if they were just scratch tracks, just so nobody'd be playing through the holes. And it was just, you know, it was just brilliant. You know, that way everybody, this way it feels like the band. And
amazing.
You know, instead of doing, well, we're going to do the rhythm section first. Write the horn charts, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, you know, which is the way most records are made, you know. I mean, but he was saying, man, the engineer really got most of it. We kept. Got you.
Got you. I wanted to ask you, because you kind of touched upon like back in the day, you know, back in the beginning, as far as your career. First of all, are you are a keyboard player first?
And guitar.
Okay, so I mean, did you learn both at the same time, or did one come before the other? Or they just
I played Well, I started on keys when I was.
Because I mean, you're good at both, man. I mean, come on now.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, my kid's a Trotter student and a Berkeley grad. He can play circles around me. You know.
Ouch. Okay.
He's got a real Bachelor of Arts degree.
A real one.
My BA is a bad attitude. I went to the school of.
And you're certified, right?
The sax player in Chicago used to call it the clubs. He said, "Oh, upholstered sewers." I guess his dad called it that or something. I'm gonna go work out tonight. Where are you going? I'm gonna go hang out in an upholstered sewer.
There you go. And that right. So did you start with piano?
I started with piano when I was a kid. I was reading, like bar talk and stuff before I was reading English. I was way into it. My mother was a piano player, so she got me with a really cool teacher who got young kids. And got me. I mean, I wasn't ridiculous. Not like some of these.
Oh,
Asian,
right at the beginning.
Some of these Asian kids are playing, just tearing it up. I wasn't that, but I showed some promise without a doubt. And then my parents got divorced. We couldn't get the piano up this hill to the house we were living in, so we just didn't have a piano at some point. For the next 4 or 5 years, all I wanted to be was either a fireman or a cowboy or something, I didn't care. But but then I started hearing trumpet. I wanted to be a trumpet player. All of which I learned how to play. I mean, I learned how to play sax. The first Sons album, I played baritone sax on.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Doc Kupka one time says, "Man, I kind of copped the style of your Barry player." Who was it? I looked at it, was a Doc. It was me.
What?
I haven't picked up a sax since. It's got to read like a shingle. Are you kidding me? I'm not putting the roof in my mouth again.
Now you mentioned Doc, because I was going to bring that up. You're from Oakland, California.
Originally, I was born in Oakland, but when I was really kind of doing music, it was in Marin County.
Oh, okay.
So it was over on the hippie side of the bay.
But still, you were associated with with all those guys. I mean, Tower Power and who else? I mean, so many of them from the Bay Area. I was
David Foster was producing J.P. Morgan record. And he said, "You know the guys in Tower, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." "You think you could call them and see if they would put horns on some of this?" So I called Doc. I said, "Hey, you guys, you want to run it by the guys, see if it's happening? I'm sure there'll be a double session of some kind. Do it over at Record Plant in Sausalito." And Doc did it. I think it was one of the first times they went off, out of the Tower Power world and worked for somebody else.
Wow.
And then they did that a lot for a long time. Somewhere along the line, they went, "Hey, this was a good idea." And Greg, wrote up chart on David's stuff. It all just ended up working out great. But I've written songs with Doc before, sung on some of his solo albums and stuff, and they're pals. I mean, all those guys are pals. Have been for years.
Wow.
I don't see them very. Man, their new album's kicking hard. It's smoking. Haven't lost a millimeter of groove.
Right.
Even though they've lost, I mean, Rocco's no longer with us. Since,
right.
Almost lost Dave. David Garibaldi.
That train accident. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But how does that happen?
I've played the same club. I've walked in the same door. I've seen the same tracks. I just never saw a train on it. And who knew a train was going to be coming that fast?
Wow. Okay.
Pretty nuts. Yeah.
And this is a track that they're familiar with. I mean, they're familiar with the area and all that stuff, so they know how it's supposed to be.
They've been playing Yoshi's. They've been playing Yoshi's in Chaplin Square in Oakland.
Oh, okay.
Probably once a year for at least 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
I don't even know whether Yoshi's is still there. A lot of clubs are eating it because of this virus thing.
Right.
They aren't able to keep any commerce going.
It's funny because I thought about that story as far as like David Garibaldi and the whole train thing and everything, and I'm like, okay, they're familiar with the area. They're not. This is like a track that they took, who knows how many times until this time, and just this thing happened, just out of the blue happened. But they're okay.
Anybody expected a train to come barreling through? I mean, I looked at the tracks and I figured, it must be like a little some kind of little shuttle thing to go. No, full tilt train.
Okay.
Really and it's messed up David pretty bad, but the other guy, the bass player that was with him at the time, because Rocco was sick at the time.
Right.
he got hurt pretty bad. He was in the hospital.
Man, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that.
I think he's okay now. I think he may be the guy that has the gig now.
Oh, okay. And David is fine too.
Yeah, David's kicking. God,
good. Right.
Right. He's got chops on his chops on it. It's like, hey, man. David, is your chop up? You're ready to go on the road.
I mean, some of the grooves he comes up with, it's like, dude, where did that come from? You know.
Well, you know, I know who his teacher was. He plays to really get a really good tone out of the drums. So he doesn't slam real hard.
No, right.
But but the tone that's coming off the drums is bigger and louder than a lot of guys who slam really hard. So he was a Chuck Brown student. You know, I've had a couple of drummers in the Sons were Chuck Brown students, and Chuck was quite a good drummer and a good teacher in the Bay Area for years and years and years. So it's interesting when Dave was a kid, you know.
Gotcha. It's interesting what you just said as far as like how he attacks the snare. I mean, he doesn't come from back here. I mean, it's like right there.
He doesn't play down. You know, the way to get the sound is, and Chuck had a way of holding the drumstick, which I think Dave still uses. You go like that, and what you're doing is you think of it as bringing the sound out of the drum.
Okay. He was definitely one of those drummers that made it look easy. And I mean, with everything that he was doing, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know,
and you know, in a lot of ways that David and Rocco were one guy in some ways, because a lot, especially their grooves, their 16s, can end up being the potential to rush, and that's where Rocco kind of held it down.
Wow.
So and in addition to being a brilliant bass player, he kind of kept the groove from going. Kept it right on. I mean, I don't think they use a click by any means, but he kept it right on the BPM that the thing started.
Okay,
that's just somebody with Morocco and David. I mean, both of them have just an amazing inner clock.
Okay. Wow. So you're playing piano. Okay, you kind of move on, and then you kind of had to step away because of life. Life gets in the way and all that stuff. So you picked the piano back up. Did the guitar come along then?
No, the guitar came before they got the piano back up again.
Okay.
I saw Elvis. That was it. Got to do this.
Elvis does that, doesn't he?
I just went, that's cool. I mean, I don't think I sounded quite that good with a piece of rope and a broom, but I tried. You know?
It's either Elvis or the Beatles.
Millions of other people, you know.
Gotcha.
Hey, the Beatles came out. I wasn't a real fan of it until I heard Paul singing Long Tall Sally, and I went, wait a minute. There's something going on here. And then now you listen to him and you realize what an amazingly great bass player that guy is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
His parts, his notes, the way he puts it on. And I think at some point in the game, the Beatles were stacking their own stuff. You know, John was playing guitar. I don't know. I guess they got Ringo on a lot of the drums, but different players were brought in.
And they did for how many tracks? What, like 8 tracks then?
Well, 4 track. I mean, Sgt. Pepper's 4/4.
Right.
The engineer has to be in mix mode from before the equipment's brought into the room. You know, it's because you got to get the drums on, you know, on maybe 2 or 3 tracks.
Right. Exactly.
Fly them to another, fly them to one track to another. It's just harder to do. But I've done it. We put out a record in 1965, maybe.
Oh wow.
A song called "Sing Me a Rainbow" on Verve Records, and that thing was 7 generations down.
Whoa.
It sounded good. Still sounds good. I mean, it's a little bit of a just poppy ditty, you know. But
right. But nobody cares.
We were able. I mean, with real good, solid production and direction and engineering. Hank McGill was the engineer, and Randy Sterling was the producer on that in San Francisco. And if they know what they're doing, it sweetens up pretty quick. You can get a lot of stuff on them. I remember Tim was putting a Barrett, what do you call it? A bass clarinet on it. You know, my sister's in to sing some stuff. I mean, it was pretty amazing.
Got you.
And the record did okay here and there. I mean,
it did what it's supposed to do.
Well, this was AM time.
Right. Oh, wow. AM radio. Yeah. Got you. So you move on. You're quite the prolific piano player, keyboard player. Where does B3 fit into all this?
I remember I was driving with my mom. I remember where I was, and for some reason, Jimmy Smith's "Walk on the Wild Side" with "Walk on the Wild Side" Part 2. With who the hell was the horn arranger, Oliver Nelson, maybe.
Mm.
Oh man, my memory anyway. I'm a founding member of CRS. Can't remember shit. But in any event, I remember where I was when I heard, and I went, what is that? I started taking jobs pulling weeds for people in their garden to get an organ payment, and I ended up buying a Hammond. I think it was an L model or an M model, you know, a little smaller model, and had the built-in. It's like a console that we carried around for a while, and the smallest Leslie they made, and it just wasn't loud enough. It wasn't going on, and eventually, sooner or later, I ended up with a B3 and a 122. And
really?
that was the end of that story.
That was it,
I mean,
right?
Oh man, if you play it right, that's the sexiest sounding instrument on there.
It really is. It is
really a cool thing. And you can, if you know, that's why the portables. I'm a little shaky about the portables, especially on stage. I bring one with me in case the B3 breaks.
Right.
You know, but part of our back line list is get us a B3 if we're going to play anywhere. And I'll bring the portable if I know if I'm doing another band or something, I'm doing 1 or 2 songs, then I'll go ahead with the portable.
Gotcha.
There's something about the Leslie, if you swell it correctly, it can just take the whole band up like that. If you do it right. I mean, it's one of my favorite players is Mike Finnegan, and his comping, especially I heard him doing, I think it was Love the One You're With when we were out with CS&N, Crosby, Stills and Nash. And he was doing that tune, and I just listened to Mike comping on it. It was like, oh my God. Wow. We played a gig in South Carolina, and Bruce Hornsby was there and said, dude, come here. Brought around backstage. And when that song came, I said, dig the pocket on this. And you know, Bruce was like, whoa. Wow. Just a pocket. You know, it wasn't playing anything really, you know, in terms of this, it wasn't playing anything really, really hard or difficult, but pocket was just ridiculous. I mean, I've done albums. I mean, we did the 30 album, as a matter of fact, that Already Gone was on. And the producer is Jay DeMarcus, a good friend of mine, and plays bass with Rascal Flatts. He said, "Oh wow, how about doing pads?" And I went, "You don't get it, do you? This is a rhythm instrument. Think of it as a rhythm guitar. I mean, it really is a rhythm instrument. You want a pad." There's a whole lot better pads than an organ. With all the synthesizer string things and everything like that.
Right, exactly.
A million different kinds of pad. Listen to almost every record that comes out of Europe. They all have these just wide open pads on them. You can't really get that from a B3, but what you can get is this groove.
There you go. There you go.
Occasionally a long chord is the right thing to do, but
occasionally
not as a default.
Right. Right.
I mean, he just thought organ was a default pad, you know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, he knows better now. Right. He knows better than I ask me now. He's a good.
He was educated.
Yeah, he's a good musician. Guy plays great bass, sings really well. Good piano player, really good piano. So it's just one of those.
Got you. So you have there's this long list of people that you played with over the years that you saw you've been on their records and this and that and the other. Speaking of organ, I have here in my list Jimmy Smith.
I got a call from Carmen Twilley that Gene McDaniels was producing a Jimmy Smith record. Remember Gene?
No, huh?
He wrote "That's the Time I Feel Like Making."
Oh, okay.
And as a singer, years before he did the song, he took 100 pounds of clay, and he said, "Hey, listen," which was pretty cool. Actually, pretty but it was a bit of a cheesy song. But Gene's
but it worked.
Great musician, great songwriter. And she said, we're gonna do backups for a Jimmy Smith record. So I flew down from San Francisco, came in. We did the record. Jimmy never showed up. All I wanted to do was go meet Jimmy Smith, and I never got it. Right. What?
Date,
she said, and it's only a single scale date. We're not making real big money on it. But I said, man, I'd pay to meet
just
Jimmy.
To meet Jimmy Smith, right?
Yeah, he's one of the big heroes in my life.
Right.
At some level, I mean, God, the sermon. Just insane.
Talk about an unexpected ending to a story, right? Because I'm like taking all these notes and all that stuff. I'm like, wow, he plays B3. He met Jimmy Smith. I can't wait to hear that story.
Hey, turn your love around. 3 writers, all guitar players. Playing the song for, doing a song for George Benson, who can wipe all 3 of us off the table in 2 bars. Friend of mine, Michael Neal plays with. He's been playing with George Benson for years. He's playing rhythm, and Mike is an insanely great guitar player himself. But he said, and I talked to him. It might have been about 15 years ago. I talked to him on the phone. And he had been working with George by that time for about 25 years.
Gotcha.
And he said, there's not a night that I go out there that something new doesn't fly out of that guy on guitar. And I go backstage and say, well, what was that? He said, I don't know. It's past the point of him even being involved. Art just comes through his hand. And Mike's just said, man, I should be paying him for all this time. I'm not gonna, but
right.
All God's children got rent, and Michael's a sweetie pie and an amazingly great guitar player himself. There's a bunch of really, really good cats out there, and most of them live in Las Vegas. And most of them you can catch on a Monday night. Every one of those guys. Absolutely. I just saw one of their podcasts. I think it was last night, night before maybe, and it was on Monday night. So but I couldn't get it on Monday night, and they had problems with it because it kind of went out mono, so they fixed it to be stereo, and I just went on and checked it the other day. Forget about it. Insane,
Oh, okay.
Johnny Friday on drums, really good call. Pepe was great. I loved it when Eddie was in the band years ago. So those cats, and Roshan Westmoreland, please, there's not a lot of guys as good as him. He can, and just put it this way, he can overplay and never lose the pocket.
Right.
A lot of guys that start over kicking it, getting off with, great facility and everything, kind of lose the pocket. And Roshan never does. I mean, talk about an inner clock. That guy's ridiculous.
Right. And like you said, as far as like he can overplay, it's like, does he?
Jerry, Jamie, Eddie Garcia, and Roshan played with me for a whole tour right after I left Chicago. I mean, and we had a bunch of club gigs, and we just went right over. The band was so good, and it's just the nature of Lopez and Hosmer and those guys. They only want to do it right, and that's what they and they do it really so well. I'm in love with that band. Just crazy good.
Got you. Speaking of which, and thank you for reminding me. Shout out to Jerry Lopez for this, because we were totally talking and all that stuff, and he mentioned your name and everything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he knows Bill Champlin and everything. And I'm like, and I like hesitated before I called him. Do you think Bill would be okay with doing this? I'd love to have him. I'm a big fan and all that. He's like. And Jerry just totally put everything in motion. I'll send him an email, I'll copy you on an email and all that, and we're in. And Bill, like the next day, Bill like contact me. I'm like, yes.
Jerry's just one of those guys. There's so many cool things he's done.
Yes.
Not just for the musicians in that community, but for that community in general. He's just. There's not a lot of people like him. I mean,
You're absolutely right.
Me and Will sat in. We made a CD or a DVD of it. Sat in with those guys for a show at when they were still at the Palms, and I just kind of saw up close and personal how he worked with the band with that many guys. I mean, usually you'd look at it as herding cats.
Huge.
It could be really done. And I went. I don't think I've seen a band leader. As he's got an iron fist when he needs it, but most of the time he's hands open and he's very soulful and really good friends with everybody. But when it needs when it needs to happen, he makes it happen. And the last band leader I saw with that kind of chop, with being able to straddle that fence really well, is Duke Ellington. So I mean, I hate to say it, but Jerry's as a band leader, he's in the Duke Ellington School of Band Leaders. Duke hung on to those guys that he had in a band for 25, 30 years.
Right. Totally.
Through divorces and addictions and, arrests and bails and all different things that can happen to people. and he hung in with them all. You know, he was a very soulful guy. But when the shit hit the fan,
right,
this is the downbeat. Be there,
right,
you know,
right.
And that's kind of what I see with Jerry and Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. He's so good at being loving and firm at the same time. It's really good.
And
really
they deliver.
Good.
They totally deliver. Yeah. And they respond to that. They totally respond to that.
Plus, he's probably one of the best rhythm guitar players ever. And his lead playing, he ain't no schlock. And then he opens his mouth and sings. He always says, "Oh well, man, you know, I don't know. You're the singer. I'm just fooling around." No. No. I've heard this before. Other people.
Right. So humble.
Not
so humble.
He sings circles around my old ass. It's amazing. I just love to hear him sing. He's just good as it gets. Well, now I think they're working on a new record. We just the opening song after their intro thing. Their opening song was a song that me and Tamara wrote with them. A song called "Bad Blue Moon," and man, they arranged the holy piss out of it. It's great. And then there's a ballad that Jerry kind of sent us what it was. And Tamara and I got into that too, and finished writing. He had a premise, and we finished the premise, and that's going to be amazing. It's going to be real good. Wow. He's a piece of work, I'll tell you.
In all ways, but especially a good way. I mean, he really is. He really is. I had done a version, the band that I was playing with at the time, I'd done this arrangement of "Use Me Up" by Bill Withers, right? Yeah. And, you know, featured horns and this and that and the other. Next thing I know, Jerry's calling me, you know, "Hey, can I use that?" First of all, and I told Jerry that, I told him when we spoke, I'm like, first of all, the great Jerry Lopez is calling little old me for this song that's not written by me, but he loved the arrangement so much that he took the arrangement. And then what blew the song away, like you said, as far as Jerry, he dropped this little, like, this, I don't know. I don't know that I call it salsa.
Almost a salsa groove.
Yeah.
Tempo,
it is a salsa groove. Okay. Yeah. So he dropped that right in the middle of it, and man, just blew the whole thing out of the water. I'm like,
I heard it. It was the closing show on this last Monday's thing.
Wasn't that amazing?
Amazing. Totally amazing. Yeah. My God.
And I told him,
if the arrangement is really good, I mean, that band has been doing a song that I wrote. Me and Greg Matheson wrote a song called "Love's Gonna Find You," and I did it like a duet with Tamara on a record years and years ago. And you know, we played it live, and I used to fly the horns because we had Gary Grant, Tom Saviano, who wrote the chart, Gary Grant, Dave Boroff, I think, was playing on it, a handful of different cats. Brandon Fields was playing baritone. You know. And the horn section just came out ridiculous. So when they did it, they kind of just went ahead and used the arrangement, you know. And with those guys, with the 5-6 guys that they got playing it, it came off, you know, comes off great. And then, man, those singers, forget it. Tony and
right,
forget it.
Right, Tyreek and all of them.
Man, I produced some stuff on Santa Fe years ago.
Oh wow!
And we had different, you know. Cleto was still singing with him. Cleto was singing beautiful. Jerry was singing beautiful, but when I got to doing Lenny at the chorus, he doubled blind, and he just was so good in the studio. It was like, whoa, this guy knows what he's doing. One of my favorite tenors ever.
Oh, I mean,
he's such a good singer. Yeah,
awesome.
All those guys, I just want to shoot him. I listened to that. I went, I can't perform anything anymore unless I attempt to get it is even somewhere in the same zip code as these guys. It's just not going to happen.
I wanted to ask you, as far as like your songwriting, you know, we live in these days of, you know, well, it's got to sound like a certain way. It's got to be this, it's got to be that. You know, we don't want it to be too busy or whatever. How do you get over that? Because your songs, again, I mean, you talk about composing. I mean, you are a great songwriter. Okay. And I mean, how do you get past, like, or do you even deal with that? Do you like, no, this song is going to be the way that I've written it, and that's all that there is to it, you know?
Well, when I write it, it's usually a piano, a vocal, a pencil and paper, and you know, these days it's a cell phone recorder, but just something to remember what it is, and here's where this goes, here's where that goes. When it starts to sound like something is when I start arranging it.
Oh, okay.
You know, putting the arrangements in. And usually once I get into arranging it and getting, you know, and what I usually do is I'll put on fake drums, and I'll get the drums quantized and grooved where I want them. And maybe even fake bass, maybe keyboard bass, mood synthesizer kind of.
But your songs move. I mean, they move.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as
what I try to get the drums on there is just to get the feel for it, so that when I hand it to a real drummer, he knows how I want it to feel.
Oh, okay.
It just sounds better with a real guy on this album.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all real guys. I had Gordon Campbell playing on 6 songs, I think, and then Alan Hertz played on like 8. I don't know. It's just amazing. And then we had Lenny Castro playing it all. And man, he adds a thing to everything he touches. He's been around forever. He's done some really, really cool things. Actually, Joe Bonamassa did a whole tour of just him and Lenny.
What?
Like an opera house in Vienna. And it was just him and Lenny. Pretty interesting. And Lenny just tore it up. And he was the whole band, and Joe went ahead and did what he was doing. So I mean, he's been off and on with Toto forever.
Right. Right.
Jeff, there's a lot of guys they could have got, but Jeff said, "Man, we got to get Lenny." Simple as that. He's the dude.
Right. Okay.
He's a sweetie pie. He's a good friend. We know each other. We kind of got to know each other a little better once we started doing this stuff, because I just put the files together and took him to his house.
Wow. Okay.
He just recorded them in his little room, and he just did it and sent them. I came back, got my drive back, and done.
Okay.
That's how good the guy is. Trusted him to. So what am I to do? Tell you, well, I'd like you to go to the Doonbeck now, or could you maybe play the? No, he's going to play what he wants to play, because he knows this shit better than I do. Why am I telling him? I mean, there's a thing about sometimes when you hire somebody, you don't hire them to do something else. You hire them to do what they're known
to do what they do. Right.
That's why I got as much work as I got as a background singer, is because usually I'd bring an arrangement or I would arrange on the spot. And people would go, "I didn't hear that on this song." Well, I did. So, and I think that's how, in a lot of ways, at the time, I mean, it was kind of a West Coast thing that, Toto, even Steely Dan's, a lot of different music that, Foster's considered a West Coast icon. And West Coast is a music that I think what it is, I mean, I've tried to say, I mean, Sweden and Japan have still got big West Coast fan base over there. And a lot of guys have kind of gotten into that, Foster especially. I mean, most of the stuff that he's done, Toto for sure. And what it is it's pop music with some education and a little more creative. It kind of opened the door, but it didn't open it wide open, because if you do that, you end up with Jacob Collier and Dirty Loops, which is kind of not accessible to everybody. To let it go completely gone, you know what I mean? So West Coast kind of just opened up this much, and I was kind of in that scene. I was part of that scene, so I did a lot of the backgrounds on a lot of that kind of music.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when I heard it, I just went, well, can we be creative? And then I did a million background dates doing that. Well, not a million, I don't know, 300 or 400. And at some point, the producers started saying, "No, we don't want that. We want to sell a record."
Okay. And that's my question. How did you get past that?
Huh?
And that was my question. How did you get past that, or over that, or around that?
Yeah, at the time, I got the offer to join Chicago, and I went, maybe it's time to get out of the studios, because this is going to kill me. And it turned out that I'd go to work with Jay Graydon, I'd work with David or something like that, and there'd still be room for creativity. But a lot of the sessions that I did, I just want oohs and ahs here. I said, can I make a way to make a pyramid out of them? Can I do something with them? We did one thing. I had 3 singers. This is Rosemary Butler, Joe Turano, and Jill Colucci. We're 4 singers on a Julio Iglesias record. And John Hammond was not John Hammond. Somebody else Hammond. I forget his first name. He co-wrote "I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love," and I can't remember his first name. But Hammond is his last name. And he was producing.
Of course, it would be Hammond, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's cool with me. So we went in, and they were doing "Wise Men Say Only Fools Rush In."
Right.
And he says, all right, everybody just sing unison or octaves with Julio, and that'll be all I want. And I went, are you kidding?
Wow.
So I started going to the piano while they were running the tape back. I'm going, couldn't we just do like almost a madrigal? Just do a little, I can arrange up a 4-piece thing. And I don't think Joe and Jill quite got it right off the bat, but Rosemary went, oh, this would be really good. So we put it together at the piano, and Hammond's kind of going, oh, what's going on? And at some point in the game, because he wasn't into doing it, and I just kind of fought for it. At some point in the game, we went ahead and went to the mic, and of course the first pass we didn't get it. He said, no, just go back to the unison thing. I said, man, put down your gavel, give me 5 minutes. And it ended up being stellar.
The signature part, right.
And he was, and I think it ended up being the title tune of the record.
There you go.
He said, man, I just did the coolest stuff, and you didn't want to do it. And I was
Don't you love it?
Welcome to, as Jay Graydon would say, Hollywood. That famous line from 1941. Look, Rook, Hollywood.
There you go.
Graydon just loves that line.
You mentioned a couple names as far as like the artists of today, like you mentioned Dirty Loops and Jacob Collier and all that. How do you feel about like these people, like the people that I guess make music today?
Well, I don't know Jacob Collier, but oh my goodness, what an amazingly talented musician, and his voicings and his substitutions and his arrangement. We forget about it. He's just at the
I'm a big fan.
Top of the and then there's
and you mentioned the creativity part too.
Yeah, when I heard Dirty Loops doing a cover of a Britney Spears song, somebody, actually Tom Henby, a guitar player in Nashville, sent me a link. So I went to the link and I listened to him and I went, holy shit, what is this? Jonah can sing. I mean, he sings, I don't think there's a ceiling on his range at all. Unbelievable singer. And then he plays this ridiculous piano on that little teeny keyboard. And I said, man, you got to feed that thing. It'll eventually be a real. Because I met him, you did meet him. Tom Henby sent me a link, and he said, this, restores my faith in music.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, he lives in Nashville where it's a lot of that, just do this and make it sound like every other record.
Gotcha.
They make perfect records. And who wants to listen to perfect? Can you imagine a totally tuned and totally timed Jimi Hendrix record?
No.
It's just that there's a feel there. There's a people feel. Let it happen. I like working with a click, but I like making sure that it grooves, even though.
Right. I used to say as far as that, sometimes it's the imperfection that makes it perfect.
Exactly. Well, so, and at that point, perfect. I don't know. At some point in the game, everybody has a different viewpoint on it.
Right.
And there's things on my record. They're a little out of tune. They're just minutely out of tune. And I kind of went, well, I can tune this, but I don't want to.
Why? Right.
Yeah, it feels fine. People can go, oh, there's a human being there.
And that's what I mean. Sometimes it's that makes it.
The first time I heard this was before auto-tune, where people they would do the country records, and then before they send them to the mixer, they'd send them to the tuner, and he'd take the vocal and he'd take a line, fly it to the keyboard, hit the note, and tune it with a pitch wheel. So it's a long process doing that.
Right. I was going to say that.
And then fly it back in perfectly in tune.
Okay.
Think of how long that would take on all those backgrounds and all the rest of that stuff.
Can you? Right.
And then, auto-tune and Melodyne and all those other programs can, boom, that's done immediately. But the first time I heard a record that was that in tune, I listened to it all the way through and went, oh my God, that's insane. I don't ever want to hear it again. I thought, that's beautiful. That's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. I don't want to ever hear it again. Then I heard Alison Krauss singing a song, and I realized that was perfectly in tune because she sings perfectly in tune. No machine. That's one you never want to hear. with an auto tune on it. It just
Right.
ain't real.
Right.
And I think a lot of the reason why she's as in tune as she is she's played a fretless stringed instrument her whole life. Well, you have to kind of tune.
So you have to tune it. Right.
She took that sort of thing about playing fiddle and put it and applied it to singing.
Oh, okay.
And she's an amazingly great singer. Just
really
sick, great singer.
Big
Good player too. The cats she plays with are all deep in tune. Great players. I mean, forget about it. You know, it's just every once in a while something comes along and you realize this is raising the bar way up there.
Way up.
Yeah. You know, if you sound like this, talk to me. If you don't, I don't want to hear about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I want to go back a little bit in your history. Going back to Chicago, they would say about Chicago's first guitar player, Terry Kath, that he brought the soul to Chicago, right? And of course, the tragedy that happened that took him out. But then you come in, and I remember thinking, man, what a perfect fit. I mean, they talk about the soul of Chicago. You brought the soul of Chicago back. And I mean, you listen to like these songs and all that.
Hang on one second. Tam, can you get this dog? He's just not making this easy. I know he's got a lot to say. Prolific little thing. Yeah, I mean,
I mean that by saying your soul. You brought your soul to the band. You know, where it was.
Well, thank you, but you know, the thing right after Terry. I mean, 2 days after Terry passed away, I got a call from Howard Kaufman, HK Management.
I didn't know.
Who were the you know, they were managers. I think they're probably still the managers for Chicago at this stage of the game. But I got a call from them and said, hey, you know, we want you to come audition for the band. And I thought it was just the guitar chair.
Oh.
And I went, I can't, you know, yeah, I play guitar, but once I played one solo, I've played my solo. You know what I mean? And it's pretty good. I like it. A lot of people like it, but I don't have another one that goes anywhere else. And you know, I can't fill those shoes. I actually gave him Carmen Grilla's name, and he pretty much had the gig up until Donnie Dacus showed up. And the Donnie knew every song backwards and forwards, and they went, well, this is great. We'll go with this guy. And Donnie's gas. He's a kick in the butt. I've worked with him, you know, on some other things. But I just didn't get that that was happening. Now, later on, I think I was working on Rittenauer's album, the Rit album. And it was a late night session. Not now. Hang on. Gary, call you back.
I like the ringtone.
Yeah. Somebody calling on the telephone. Anyway, where was I?
As far as working on Lee Rittenauer.
Yeah. I was working on Rittenauer. I got home really late. I mean, it was really foggy and rainy out, and somehow, and he was working at Monterey Studios in Glendale, pretty far away. And I got home and I went to sleep really late. I got a call at 9 a.m. from a friend of mine named Angelo, who I'd done vocals and some keyboard playing on one of his albums at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley, maybe 3 years before, maybe 4 years before. And I hadn't even talked to him. I don't know how he even got my number. He said, man, can I get you to come sing? You know, Danny Seraphin from Chicago is producing a handful of demos, a demo song, 3 or 4 demos. Got John Robinson playing on them. It's pretty decent stuff. And Danny's the producer. And he wants, I was just wondering if maybe you could come sing backgrounds on it. There's no money because we're just running on a tight budget. And I just went, man, I got the worst cold, which I kind of did, you know. And I was I didn't want to get woken up at 9 when I went to bed at 5, you know. And he says, well, you know, Pete said the same thing, but he's coming anyway. I said, Pete, who's Pete? He said, oh, Peter Cetera. I said, Cetera's gonna do it? He said, yeah, I'll be there. Where are we doing it?
Right.
So I showed up, and so I was hanging. I mean, Cetera is one of my favorite singers ever. He's a really beautiful voice, good singer, great bass player too.
Yeah, another underrated bass player.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, he took a lot of shit because he used a pick. Now everybody's using a pick.
Right. I know. Yep.
Maybe he was ahead of the game, but you know, I was like, hey man, ain't you gonna thumb it and party slap? He said,
right.
No, I'm just gonna play the way I play. And he reminded me. I mean, McCartney was one of his favorite bass players. So he was always looking for the right notes in the right place. And then
wait, that part. What a concept. Always looking for the right notes for the right place.
Yeah.
What a concept.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what McCartney did on a lot of stuff. I mean, I was told, these are all rumors, so I can't, put money on them by him. Somebody told me that he replaced all his parts and really dug in to get them right.
Wow. Okay.
McCartney. So, but anyway, so Cetera was a big fan of that, and he was going on. So we started coming up with some backgrounds, just kind of just in falsetto in the booth, just to not make a lot of noise, and run that again. And we do this note and this note. So we kind of came up with a head chart. We went out to the microphone and we started singing full out on this tune, and everybody in the booth just went,
"Wow, okay,
what a blend." And a couple of weeks later, I got a call from I got a call from Danny. So let's write something. So we wrote a song called "Sunny Think Twice," was on the 16 album.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so I went out to their actually he had in his little guest house connected to his garage. So I went out there to teach it to the band in Cetera's key, and Peter wasn't there at the time, but they were in learning mode. He didn't need to be there. So we kind of worked. I kind of taught the guitar player Chris Pennick and the rest of the cats, sort of generally how the song went and that kind of thing, and the whole thing. All that was fine and dandy, and it was all great. And then at some point, I was hanging with him, and Danny said, "Hey, we're going to cut the song today. We're going to do it without a bass player, but we're cutting the song." But before that, man, I made a serious jump. Before that, we went ahead and wrote this song, and he had it in his stash. And then he called me about a week later, 2 weeks later. He says, and I had just finished a Runaway album with David.
Okay.
Which
was the Chaplin album.
Yeah. I just finished that album, and Danny called and he said, "Hey, Bill." And I was up when I went up to work with them to teach the band the song. It was they were playing some of the other songs that they were planning on doing in the record, and nothing was knocking me out.
Okay.
It was kind of self-indulgent, quasi jazzy shit that just whatever it was. There was where's the quote mark? This is it. I don't know. I'm a chorus freak. Anyway, so and at some point in the game, "Sunny Think Twice" definitely had a chorus.
Yes.
So, but at some point in the game, Danny calls me, and he said, "Hey, we're cutting the song at a record plant." But at one point he called and he said, "You think Foster'd be good for the record?" I said, "Yeah, but he's going to throw away probably everything you got and start over." And I think personally something you need to do. "Sunny Think Twice," maybe it may make it, but I doubt even that. I said, you get, and I said, it would behoove the band to do that. He's a great producer. I don't think people get how good this guy is.
Okay.
And at that point of the game, they ended up, so they ended up getting him as a producer, but I got him in the band.
Right.
And so I showed up hanging out to cut "Sunny Think Twice." So I got on the piano and David was on the Rhodes. We did it without a bass player, and David overdubbed a moog bass on it. And that was done, but I was just kind of hung with the cats and everything. Next thing you know, about a week later, I get another call from Danny. He says, "The guys in the band want you in the band." And I said, "Danny, I don't do sideman things." He said, No, we want you in the band."
Wow. Okay.
And I went and talked to him about it and everything. Everybody was like, at this one point, Panko was saying, "You got to realize, man, this is a family. It's a family." And I went, "No, I got a family. If you want to call it a musical project, I'm in. I just did 13 years of family and it ended up, face first into a brick wall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It doesn't work for me if it's family. If we're dealing with music, then great. And then if it hangs for any period of time, then you start feeling like family. But you don't just become family,
right?
Because you want to be family,
right?
That old chest.
It's a process.
At that point, Cetera went, "You got the gig." It was pretty funny. So
wow.
You're in.
Wow.
So the rest of it was manager, minuets, and all
right.
those.
And
but and then Foster and Peter wrote "Hard to Say I'm Sorry," which is a beautiful song. Which Richard Marx renamed it "Sorry to Say I'm Hard," but that's another story. he was at a showcase, bringing David up to sit in on one of his songs that he'd written with David, and he said David's the guy that wrote "After the Love Is Gone" and "Sorry to Say I'm Hard." Everybody in the audience went, "That's working." So and with Richard, he didn't do it on purpose. He just had a marble mouth moment. Out it came. He didn't realize that he was making history at the moment. But of course, if it's funny, you can usually count on Richard.
Of course,
being close by.
Of course,
guy.
Of course.
One of the funniest guys in the world.
So, and I was just saying, like, people don't know when they hear you that it's you. Along Comes Hard Habit to Break. Dude.
Yeah. Well, it was,
you nailed it.
Originally, it was originally going to be 3 singers. And, Robert was going to sing the first section. I was going to sing the second section, and Peter sang the chorus. And it just kind of ended up not working. It ended up being Peter singing the first section because radio would hear his voice and go,
of course, right.
Which it wasn't doing with Robert's voice at that time. Earlier with Saturday in the Park and the early era, they heard his voice, it got spun immediately. But that didn't last with Robert like it did with Peter. So, and it's nobody's fault. It's just that, you got a voice like that, you lead with it. Right. And I got a really well-known voice, and people hear it and they go, I know
you do.
But I saw what was going on. I went, this might not make me terribly happy, but this is the best move to make commercially. If that's what you're looking for, trying to get on radio and trying to, because in those days it was radio, records meant radio, and if you got radio got concerts, and concerts sold records, and records sold
records. Right, and so the whole thing all over again with the next one.
Move going, Right. And so that ended up all working really well. And I don't even know where we were because I just went out on another one of my Chaplin tangents. Like I told you, you gotta keep an eyeball on where the original road is. I'll get lost in a side, in a tributary.
No, all good. It's funny because at this point I did want to go into like your new project. The things that Bill Champlin is working on for the artist Bill Champlin. And we talked about that like at the beginning.
Donna Summer I wanted to say this before. Donna Summer one time said, "Bill, you're the best known unknown singer in the world." That's thanks, Donna. I guess she's a sweet.
I was just going to ask, and how did you feel about that? I mean, because it is what it is, I
kind of wish it was different, but I think this might have been before Look Away. Look Away really, and it was weird because they knew they wanted this song. Ron Nevison had just had really, really great success with Heart. He did These Dreams and other things, and it was all really, really good. And the management said, let's get Ron Nevison, because the management managed Heart. I said, well, Ron's a good guy. We can make it. It'd be great for the band. So he walked in and he had these demos of Diane's, and one of them was Look Away. It was in a high key. Joe Toronto had sung the demo. It's about maybe a flat 5 higher than what it was when we finally did it. And even now I do a whole tone lower than what we ended up doing. And they said, well, what are we going to get for the tenor? How are we going to do this for the tenor? And they kind of went, this was the record right after Foster was gone. And Jason had done 18. 18 was a good album, really good album. And some of the songs, man, Caldwell came in, with a couple of things.
Yes.
Randy Goodrum, who's a monster. Again, have you checked his album, by the way? Randy Goodrum's new album?
No, I have not.
Look for it.
Randy Goodrum.
Oh boy, it's really something.
Will do.
Yeah, I've written.
For all you people watching, be sure Randy Goodrum. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were just talking about like the next album too, and Bobby Caldwell coming in, and I'm a fan of Bobby Caldwell as well.
That was the 18 album, and then on the 19 we decided to go a different way, and we went with Nevison, and they said, well, we got to make sure that it isn't the right key for the tenor, and Nevison said, no, I want that guy to sing it. That was in the office, and everybody looked at it like, you're fucking with the formula, man. he said, no, you don't get it. I want that guy to sing it. I mean, I owe Ron a lot because of that. You know, because he just said, I believe that this guy's got the pipe. It took a while for, you know, he wanted to make me sound a little more white than I normally do. Okay. And I don't ever consider myself, you know, color is a visual thing. Audio is how you sound. You know,
there it is. There it is.
You know, I mean, I had a session one time for somebody really well-known keyboard player, and he had a producer, really well-known producer of, I think, black groups back in the back east, and the keyboard player said, "You got to come sing a lead on this, you know, because I know you're great," and stuff like that. And I walked in, and he introduced me to the producer. Producer said, you know, I need to talk to you. He went up and back and came back, and the keyboard player came back and says, "Well, Bill, you're off the gig."
Well,
did I sing something wrong? No, wait a minute. There's
right.
We're in the lounge. We haven't even gone to the studio. He said, no. And he just looked at me like, I just kind of looked at him like, are we talking lawyers here? And then I went, nah, I don't care. What the hell? You know, other people have had to put up with this. I just got one, you know. Not a lot of them, but occasionally that happens.
Right.
It's funny. There's a guy named William Smith who he passed away probably 20 years ago. Smitty, right? He wrote a song called "Saved by the Grace of Your Love," which was on a Sons album, and a Mike Finnegan record. Finnegan and Dudek did a version. And Smitty was on A&M when I was on, and I was just Rocky, shush, when I was on Elektra.
Okay.
And Smitty had that thing of like, and he wrote beautiful stuff. It wasn't R&B. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't the, you know, Cameo, you know, which is great. I love those guys, but that's
they're awesome.
Not what Smitty was about. I mean, it's about really creative, really great stuff. Great organ player, by the way.
Okay.
But they had the, you know, you got to be more R&B, man. You got to aim toward the black audience. And when I got on Elektra Records, they said, I know your last record was a lot of R&B on it, but if you could kind of whiten up on this, we'd probably do better with our market. So Smitty and I thought, let's do each other's record. And put them out. And he said, that's a good idea. When do you start? That's classic. That didn't happen, but that would have been a real Steve Allen move, you know?
Right, totally.
Steve Allen used to put out records under different names. It had, you know, one point they busted, I think Howard Roberts, great guitar player, but he got a jazz deal and they wouldn't let him do sessions. So he started doing the sessions as Gib Fender. Getting around the attorney minuet.
Right,
you know?
right. Wow. And like and before you're like just like that. I mean, previously you're just off that gig, and so it's time. So it's time for Bill. I'm going to do my thing now.
Gigs. I mean, it didn't hurt me.
Right.
I would have liked to have been on this guy's record, you know. But it just, I mean, right away I was the wrong color and gone.
Wow.
This guy can't be soulful. Hey, dig this, you know, in the heat of the night, right?
I was going to come back to that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I did the thing, and it was put together by a guy named Kaufman. I think I forget his first name, but he was at MGM Music, right? A nice guy, sweet guy, man, really good guy, and he was pretty much handling the whole me being on the Heat of the Night project. It was all happening. So he said, I just got a call. He called me about 6 years into it. They'd just gone from NBC to CBS. They were still on major network, right? Because that one jumped. I did 4 years at NBC, then 3 years at CBS, and then it was a buttload of reruns to go into syndication, which is still happening. They're still playing.
Right.
And so I think it was Charlie Kaufman. I'm pretty sure that was his name, but a really sweet guy. And he called him. He said, "You're not gonna believe this. Carol O'Connor just called." And he said, "You know, I just don't want to hear the black guys singing that song anymore. I'm real good friends with Robert Goulet, and I can get him to replace that vocal." And
what?
Robert Goulet.
What?
Of the night. You know, I said, I said, if I was being replaced by a great singer, it'd really be a drag. And he is a great singer for that.
Yeah. In his own right.
It's just not going.
No,
really?
No.
Says, we're trying to talk him out of it, but he's the producer of the show. What he says goes.
Mm-hmm.
So that night he got a call, actually at home, from Carol saying, apparently Carol's wife was at the grocery store, and a woman came up and said, "You Mrs. Carol O'Connor, aren't you?" She said, "Yes." So, "I love your husband's show, and that singer just puts chills up and down my spine every time I hear him sing."
Mm-hmm. Speaking
so
of
she
you,
came home and told that to Carol, and Carol called and said, "Well, keep the black guy."
Thank you, Mrs. O'Connor. Thank you.
Yeah, it was just a weird little moment. It was like a little glitch in the.
I love stories
35-year. I mean, at this point in the game, my royalties are, I think, about a quarter cent per play. It's down to nothing at some point.
Hey, we all need gas money, right?
Yeah, right. Tell me about it. Hey, I got a check for 2 cents a couple of weeks ago. I was going, man, I fucked my way to the top, didn't I?
It costs him more to write the check. To write and process a check. Jeez.
I mean, it cost him probably $4 to process the check, but I got 2 cents.
Right. On that theme song, on
we
Heated Night.
Deposited it. We put it in the bank, probably just to see the look on the teller's face.
Gotcha. Did you play organ on that?
I didn't play on that at all.
You didn't?
Here's the story with that. I was home from the road for about a week. Mm-hmm. And Tamara was playing a gig at a club called Sash in North Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty good club. And she said, "Hey, you want to play with me? I got a gig over there. Why don't you play keyboards?" I said, "Okay." Mm-hmm. So I put together a couple of keyboards and a module or two. And I went over and set up, played her show. And as I was cutting, tearing it down, putting it away, this guy comes up to me. It's Chris Page, was the guy who actually arranged and produced the track. He said, "Hey, man, you got time to come do an audition for a TV theme?" Mm-hmm. I said, "Well, what's the theme?" It's just In the Heat of the Night. "You mean the Ray Charles song?" Mm-hmm. I said, "Wow, who all's doing it?" He said, "Virtually every singer in town." So I went, "Oh, you mean like Mike Finnegan?" He said, "Oh yeah, Mike's all right. Mike."
Whoa.
I went, "Oh man," I said, I went, if I didn't get it, it would have been $150. Mm-hmm. That's more than I would have made sitting around watching TV.
There you go.
So I went, what the hell? Why not? So I went in and just knocked it off, and I got the gig. That same week, I got a call from somebody who said, "We're doing the yearly theme for ABC, the whole ABC lineup, TV lineup." Oh, okay. And it was Dancing in the Streets that I did as a duet with Jill Colucci, who's a great singer. Mm-hmm. She lives in Nashville now, but man, she's bad. You've got just a smoky, whiskey voice that just gets you instantly. Great singer.
Right.
She's like a female Tony Davidge.
Oh wow! Okay.
There's just really a rock thing about her sound. Wow. I love her. She's a wonderful singer. Right. But we went and did that thing, and between In the Heat of the Night and that, I made more money than I made on the road. two or three months. It's like, well, that was a nice week off.
Gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Got in the background session, and we just walked away with, I'd like to give that today. Thank you very much.
And I just heard my daughter again. Thank you very next. Anyway, moving on.
Thank you very next. Yeah.
I got to ask you. I mean, with your career, and I mean, man, you've seen it all. And I mean, with your playing. No,
I haven't seen it, man. I hang out.
Let me say, you've seen a lot.
Have done thousands of records. I mean, Steve Lukather has probably played on literally thousands of records. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mike Landau on probably tens of thousands of records. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just amazing how many of some of these people that have just done that much work. Okay, it's crazy. Well, I just got lucky for the moment, and it's something Steve Porcaro says. When you're in a scene where there's a lot of employment out there, there's a lot of guys doing a lot of different things. If you kind of become known for a specialty, it really makes your career move. And his was really programming synthesizers. He was so good at it. He's still great at it. You walk in his studio, he's still got this giant Moog. It's the size of a house, you know, with all the little wires. And, you know, I said, you know how to work that? He said, yeah, I use it still. Really, you know.
Gotcha.
And,
Okay.
And I was kind of a specialist in terms of arrangement. And I did the white side. I did a lot of stuff. I mean, we called ourselves the Drambuie Dildos, but there was me and Bobby Kimball and Tom Kelly did a lot of dates. Me and Kimball and Mike McDonald did a handful of dates together. And Michael's, you know about him.
Right,
about it.
Right.
That guy can sing time, news, and weather and make it work.
Okay. Then
and then I had the girls that I was singing with was Carmen Twilley and Vanette Cloud, who's Carmen's. Carmen would usually sing tenor. I would sing alto and falsetto back when I had a bit of a falsetto, and Nettie would sing soprano, and we just did a whole mess of dates, especially during the disco era. We were working all the time.
Wow. Wow. Okay, then let me rephrase that then. You've seen a lot.
Yeah, I've seen a handful.
You've seen a lot. With the people with the kids that are coming up now, what advice would you have to offer them, you know, in light of the things you've seen like over your years in the business?
Well, the main thing I've seen is that the way I did it is almost an impossibility now. I mean, I grew up in, like I say, upholstered sewers, playing clubs, playing dance halls, playing an occasional, you know, I mean, before Chicago, I'm just talking about with the Sons. I mean, from the age of, I want to say 17 through 30, I was just playing with the Sons, and we did every club. You know, we did a couple things on the road out as far as New York and playing a few different places, Bottom Line, things like that. And it was just one club after another. That band, we never got over the hump. You know, we tried, and we just couldn't get over that first hump to get to the next place. I mean, we top billed Santana, we top billed the music, we top billed back in the day. They
great
were
records.
They were kind of smart enough to really go after accessibility. I mean, I met Steve Miller the day he moved into the Bay Area, and within a month he had a record deal, and within a month after that he had a top 10 hit. Boom. Yeah, because they no matter what changes musically those guys went through, they were. I mean, we did a double album with one of the songs was one of the sides of the double album. A song called Freedom. It was just this long thing. So we were kind of, you know, and we sort of typically expected. I mean, we had a lot of instant notice because we were really trying different things, but we didn't have that hit.
Oh, okay.
You know.
So would you advise them to stick with it or give up?
Well, you gotta be able,
because the business has changed. It's totally changed.
Yeah, if there's a business at all. But you know, there's still a top 10, and there are 10 people there. They may not be making the money they used to make to be there, but if you can get there, it's happening. I mean, I've talked to somebody about my son Will, who's a monster, and this is a manager, very, very successful manager. He said, have this one producer produce him, or he's not going to do anything.
Oh, okay.
Really? You got to go through that.
Wow.
You know? So there's always been processes that you have to go through to get there, which I was never that good at going through, and sometimes I didn't even realize that's what you had to do. I mean, you got to realize the beginning of my career was fraught with alcohol and drugs, mostly weed. You know, and I must have. I always had a saying with the Sons that you know, every time opportunity knocked, we answered the phone. You know, I mean, we just never got over the hump, and the hump was something that we put in front of ourselves. And I think in a lot of ways I still do. I can't play the game too much.
Okay.
And it's not like my music is better than that, because it isn't. I know what I am. I know, you know, what I record and what I write is what I do. And that's it, you know. And I've long since tried to stop saying, is it good? How does it compare? It doesn't. I don't want to compare anything to anything. My mother told me something years and years ago about competition. And she said, if you walk into a room where everybody's in competition, just remember, before you walk in the room, you already won. So you can afford to be totally gregarious with everybody because you're already won.
Oh, wow.
And she says, it's just a place to put your head so you don't have to get into this competitive bullshit. I know people who get up in the morning, compete with the world until they go to bed, they check out the scorecard. What did they win? What did they lose? And start it all the next day. It's just compete.
So true.
Compete. I don't care. You know?
So true.
I mean, especially at this age, why should I care? I'm just doing what I do. I mean, you've heard my album. It's me. Not anybody else. I mean, there's Matheson in there. There's great players on it. All of that stuff's great. I did a handful of tours where the only press I got in Japan and in Sweden was this guy is so generous giving the spotlight to people on the stage. A lot of people don't do that. I just go, I mean, you know, I'm putting together a band. I've got cassettes or CDs of what I did on the record. I hand it and say, this is a place to start. Beat it. Make it yours. So when we're on the stage, I never get that, well, I'm playing what Bill played on the record. If the real signature, probably needed, but everything else is your baby, whatever you want to do. If you got something that's better, and I almost always get something better out of everybody, I make the music sound better. I don't think it's ever, the arrangement is never over. Now, Chicago didn't feel that way. They always said, well, we got to go back and play it exactly like we did the original record. For a while, they were buying some rearrangement and modernizing and ta-da-da-da-da. But at some point in the game, they went, no, they just pulled back. And that's when it just got,
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, I just was unhappy. It was just like, I don't see any room for creativity anywhere here. I'd have a great vocal night. You know, Tris is looking over at me like, holy shit, what are you singing? And I'd look at the original guys in the band in Chicago, and they're giving me the stink eye. They give me this, oh, there you go again.
Wow.
You and your Negro music, you know.
What?
Like,
wow, it's like that.
Yeah, well, hey, Chicago. You want to see a racist town? It's just, I've never seen anything like it. You know, Tamara grew up in the South, lived up in Chicago for a while, moved back to because her dad was in the oil business. So she you know, Arkansas. She was born in St. Louis, lived in Arkansas. One of them lived in Decatur, Illinois for a little while, and then moved back to Houston, I think. So she outside of Houston, and that's kind of where she was living when she moved out here, and I ran into her. But she said, you know, I lived in the deep South, Arkansas, Texas. I've never seen racism like that northern city of Chicago.
Wow.
Never.
Wow.
You know,
amazing.
You know, and everybody points the finger at the Southerners and you racist, you know, not so much as you think. Go hang out in Chicago. Try the South Side for a minute and see what you get.
And
it works both ways too. There's every kind of racism, reverse racism, left racism, right racism. It's just the nature. I mean, somebody was telling me one time that the Lithuanians live in about a 3-block area of Chicago, and they're kind of asked not to ever leave. Does that sound like apartheid to you a little bit?
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know. There's another tangent.
No, all good. Hey, first of all, man, thank you. Like I said, I've been a long time fan, you know, from way back from the Sons of Chaplin.
I hear you talking. You know, there's one quote on all the lyrics that are written on that whole record. One is, you know, A Reason to Believe is really beautiful. But there's one quote in there in Stevie's song that I almost named the record, but music is a perfect path to love. And I thought, whoa, that's a really good line. You know, so I repeated it in the song. I finished off the vocal in this song. And I always thought that really is the truth. You know, that's why the whole thing about the Stevie song, just in general, is
I love that song.
Let some music talk to you for a minute before you go burning things down and yelling and screaming and carrying signs and doing all this other shit. Of course, unless you're being paid to do that, which a lot of people are, which we all know about. We've all seen that. We're all pretty well aware of what's going on in some of that. You you know.
Right.
But
right.
it's, you know,
And the chord progressions in there too. They're like just crazy. I mean, so good.
Yeah, there's one. I played it for Jay Gray, and he said, "Man, I had to go to the piano and figure out what that third
Right.
chord was. What the hell is that?" It's a B flat in the left hand.
Right.
A C major chord with an A on the right hand with an A flat in the thumb. I don't know whether it's got amended 13th. I have no idea what it's. That's the thing. It's somebody. Tom Scott was telling me. He said, you know, I went Tom. It was well. Tom said, man, he went to work on a Steely Dan record. They didn't know any of the chords they were playing.
What?
Don just said they're mood chords. They didn't know that 13th. You know, flat 13 with a this and that. And they just weren't. I think they are by now. I mean, right. You know, and it just, and the same thing with, you know, Al Jarreau never was a reader. He just had such instant ability to just, you know, just to change the accidentals. You know, he knew he wasn't playing. He didn't need to know the chords. He's not a piano player. All he needed to know was what accidental changes from where, and he just had such an ear he could pick it up without anybody telling him.
He went there. Wow.
Oh, insane. That guy was the most natural singer I've ever met.
Right.
You know?
Right. Amazing.
Miss him a lot.
I'm sure. We all do. I was another fan here. Another fan.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, I've taken up like a lot of your time. I really appreciate you giving me that time to do. I really had fun with this.
You're a good hang, man. You got this going on. And
thank you.
What's your daughter's name? Ashley?
Ashley, yes. Yeah. Yes. And my son also.
We'll find some more quotes.
My son also, Ian, the bridge that you did in the bridge in the song where you break into the breakdown and all that stuff, and the whole vocal thing that's happening, he would sing that part like all the time. I'm like, he's just one voice and he's singing like all these different parts. So
which song?
Already gone.
Already gone.
Yeah, where you did like the little breakdown thing in there.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Well, me and Jason, you know, Jason and I have worked together so much over the years that, especially even on Chicago records, it would, you know, once David, you know, David was out of there, we knew we better do this ourselves.
Wow. Okay.
You know, we're not just taking notes from the booth. We got to do it ourselves. And you know, we did a whole a cappella album for Japan with me, Jason, Joseph Williams. And then we brought Bobby Kimball in at the end to sing some lead stuff.
It's another monster.
Background things. Great pipes Bobby had. But we just, you know, and so, you know, Jay DeMarcus was actually going on the road. Hey, I had some road gigs with Rascal Flatts. Here's my studio. Just take a break every 20 minutes and let the Pro Tools cool down because my air conditioner broke on my machine there. But go ahead and just do the backgrounds.
Wow.
And Jason knows me well enough to know, okay, Bill's going to probably catch a thing. What are my notes? Let's go. You know, and
right.
You know, unless he's got one. And if he's got one, I'm going, what are my notes? You know? And we just kind of know what can blend and how it can blend where. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
We did some stuff on a Chicago Christmas record. And it was me and Jason stacking everything for the background. And after about 4 or 5 songs, I said, I'm running out of tricks. Let's bring in Carmen Twilley. So we brought Carmen over, and she's such a good singer. She sang, I think, "Rhythm of Life" on the Lion King. Carmen's bad. I mean, she taught me more how to, not necessarily what to arrange, but where. She hit me to the where.
Awesome.
You know,
awesome.
In background days, David Foster put me and her and Nettie together, and we ended up doing great stuff.
Great.
So we brought Carmen and said, I got to get another ear on it. So we asked the producer, Roy Bitton, he plays keyboards with Springsteen, but he's a really cool guy. Good accordion player. If you can, play accordion, go to jail. You know what I mean? You ever hear the one where the guy's got an accordion player's?
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about.
Awesome. Great.
So car comes out and there's 4 more accordions in there.
Right. Well, listen again, Bill, thank you again so much for doing this. Thank you for being on the playground with me where the players play. And boy, did you, man, talk another master class. And I love this. I mean, the things that you spoke about, the things that you have seen. I mean, again, thank you. Very next check, please. Until next time, my friend, thank you so much for being on the playground.
Okay.